So there's this Toon sports thing going on this week, and I guess the ball's in my court. That's cool of me. I can dig that. It's an honor to be a part of this fascinating endeavor. I'm always one for stepping outside my comfort zone and broadening my horizons, and you've got my good friend NICKtendo to thank for that. However, there was one statement he made in his video yesterday that I kinda want to refute. Contrary to the sentiments that Nick shared the other day, not all of us are unathletic. I mean, would you call this unathletic? I don't think so. Though if I were to be honest, I actually enjoy my fair share of sports. I can play a number of them, but I don't excel at a single one. And I can dig a few major sporting events, like the 4 Grand Slams, the NBA playoffs, the Super Bowl, and the Olympics of course. If you were to ask me what my specific sport is, however, it would have to be basketball, which is a big deal in my home country of the Philippines. It's not at all far-fetched, since the country used to be a US colony. Though I never played the sport at a real competitive level, I still enjoyed playing it on a casual basis, and had a competitive streak that drove me to improve my game. That, and I'm also pretty well versed in the history of the sport. That's enough rambling though. Since I gushed a little bit about basketball and my home country's history with the sport, that naturally means that today's video will be about a piece of animation centered on basketball. That's true, but there's a little bit of live action thrown into the mix. Yeah, today's video is about Space Jam, the 1996 live-action animated feature film starring the Looney Tunes characters and NBA legend Michael Jordan. The film received middling reception at the time of its theatrical release, with some people enjoying it for the absurd concept at hand, and others hating it for the absurd concept, the latter of which included Mr. Looney Tunes himself, Chuck Jones. With respect to the concept itself, how exactly did Space Jam start? And was the concept really dead on arrival like a number of its detractors claim it was? Well, to answer the first question, much to my surprise, the origins of this movie are not what I expected them to be. It began in 1992, the greatest year ever, when Nike showed a commercial for the latest iteration of their Air Jordan line of sneakers. The commercial, naturally, featured Michael Jordan himself playing a game of basketball alongside none other than Bugs Bunny. That's not the surprising part. The surprising part is that it aired during the 26th Super Bowl, which if I recall correctly is an annual NFL event. Wouldn't it make more sense if the commercial was shown during the NBA playoffs or finals of that year? I know it would have set Nike back a few months, but it also would have been more appropriate. Now as for the concept itself, I'm one of the people who found it to be a winning combination, and hell, I still find it to be a winning combination. Think about it, some of animation's biggest icons sharing the spotlight with a golden boy of basketball, plus a cast of established actors like Dan Castellaneta, Danny DeVito, Bill Murray, and Wayne Knight. It's a very enticing and lucrative prospect. But as is true with the creative media paradigm, some concepts that seem too good to be true are better on paper than they are in practice. And I'm here to determine if Space Jam is a case for or against this principle. Now what's this movie all about? Interestingly, Space Jam is a fictionalization of Michael Jordan's initial retirement from basketball and brief stint with minor league baseball. Trust me when I say that this is very fictionalized. I mean, it's got the Looney Tunes in it, doesn't it? And it's also got extraterrestrial beings that run an interplanetary amusement park and want to capture the Looney Tunes as the main attraction for said interplanetary amusement park. So yeah, this plot's pretty off its rocker. Speaking of, the Looney Tunes here are pretty much portrayed faithfully to who they were in their original shorts, with a gaping hole or two here and there. Bugs is the smart-ass wisecracker, though not as overpowered here as he is in his shorts. Daffy is the egotistical, self-centered prima donna. Porky still has his famous stutter. Wile E. Coyote still uses Acme products, which are strangely more efficient this time around, and so on and so forth. So in that respect, the movie generally holds up. I say generally because not every joke involving these characters hits the mark. Some of it is a mishmash of shameless product placement and pandering to the audience.
What do you think? I'm kind of partial to purple and gold myself. It goes better with my coloring. Come on.
Guys, nice outfit there.
Which, given the nature of the film, should not come as a surprise to anyone in the slightest, and juvenile comedy like toilet humor or flat-out unfunny jokes. The toilet humor would be fine if the movie didn't use it in its most basic, bare-bones form.
pig. Boo.
I wet myself.
Haha, a piss joke that involves a character that doesn't wear pants. Genius! Pure genius! But seriously, writers, this is the bloody Looney Tunes here. You were essentially given comedy gold on a silver platter. Just a little bit of tweaking, and you would have hit the jackpot. That's the Looney Tunes in Space Jam in a nutshell. Faithful in a lot of areas, but off-point in others. Now what about MJ? What's he like?
Well, I've never really told anybody this, except for one person, but I think I'm gonna go and play professional baseball.
Looks like I retired just in time.
Listen, it's a man's game, and you can't play.
Bugs Bunny, what's going on here?
Why, Michael? I thought you'd never ask.
Just as I feared. I was wondering why the writers chose Jordan's personal life as the basis for the script. Now I know, because the man has the personality of a 2x4, and they must have thought that his life story will write the movie story. Look, I know for a fact that these celebrities with no background in acting are nice people in real life, or at least I like to believe that they're nice people in real life, but it doesn't mask their inexperience on the silver screen. They didn't go through the same regimen that actual actors have been through, or if they did, it wasn't as rigorous, and their inexperience will show, no matter what. With Space Jam, a good amount of its faults can be attributed to Michael Jordan. I was amazed at how many critics praised his performance, one of those critics being the late Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. I'm not going to be the conspiracy nut and declare that Warner Brothers bribed their way to these glowing reviews, but I am genuinely shocked at the high praise that Jordan was getting. To make a long story short, this is not a good performance. Jordan delivers 99% of his lines in a fashion as dry as the Sahara. In fact, he's about as full of life in this movie as a desert, which is to say...
Well, I stunk up the place. I hope this baseball thing is a good idea.
You're a cartoon, you're not real. Look, I want to help, but I haven't played basketball in a long time. My timing's all off.
Guys, let's just go out and have fun.
And the worst part is, this is how he acts the entire film. Just observe this interaction he has with the movie's antagonists.
You calling me Ticket?
Hey, come here.
Can you believe it?
Get out of the way!
Dude, Mike, are you seriously just gonna let them fold you up into a shitty CGI basketball and toss you around like that?
You guys making a big mistake.
You're all washed up, Baldy.
Baldy? Let's play some basketball.
I guess he is. And by reacting to his surroundings in the same monotonous way, he downplays the severity of every situation he's put in. I wouldn't mind it if his character was written to befit the deadpan deliveries, like he's one of those emotionally detached, morally challenged archetypes who couldn't give two shits about even the most mundane thing ever. But that's not how his character was written, if he even had one to begin with. As for the rest of the cast, Wayne Knight's character is purely throwaway. Well, he does leave one major impression.
Come on, Michael, it's game time. Get your Hanes on, lace up your Nikes, grab your Wheaties and your Gatorade, and we'll pick up a Big Mac on the way to the ballpark.
Okay, Wayne, how much exactly were you paid to say that one line? Because whatever that money was, I bet you that you were paid 5 times that amount for your voice acting work in Toy Story 2. I just know it. After that scene, he's reduced to nothing more but the comedy relief who provides neither comedy nor relief, and instead provides some uncomfortable stalker undertones. Jeez. Whatever you do, don't let this man near social media. Ah well, so much for a decently talented actor. Maybe the film can squeeze something out of him, so that he's not a complete What the hell?!
Wonderful. What the fuck am I watching?!
What is with the CGI in this movie? Am I just spoiled by the advancements we've made in technology and expertise in the field of animation? Or was the CGI back then just that bad? I have no idea, but I will get to that. Not counting the 5 other NBA superstars in this movie, the other big-name actors like Dan Castellaneta and Bill Murray are used very oddly. The former is merely a one-scene wonder that, in the end, is inconsequential to the grand scheme of the film, while the latter is... himself?
Okay, little fella, you my friend or you my enemy? You are my friend, right? You are my ally. You are my associate, my personal assistant. You are my weapon. You are leaving.
Son of a bitch, Ball, why didn't you just go home? That's your home! Are you too good for your home? Answer me!
Suck my white ass, Ball!
What? Is this just how Bill Murray acts in real life? Or is this a caricature of him? Not that I'm complaining, since his antics never fail to amuse an audience, even if he kinda meanders aimlessly here until the end, where he's a pretty weak deus ex machina.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! I didn't know Dan Aykroyd was in this picture!
Hey! Perhaps I could be of some assistance.
So, hooray for Bill? With the cast of characters done, let's move on to the technical stuff. Hello? Yeah, I'm doing the video right now. You sort of caught me at a bad time. Wait, what? That wasn't part of the agreement. Aw, do I have to? Well, she's already been talked about to death. I don't see how I can possibly add anything that hasn't already been brought up. Are you sure? Okay, if that's what you say my audience wants. Well, it appears that I've missed one character. That would be Lola Bunny, the newest addition to the Looney Tunes gang and one of the pioneers of the furry fandom, alongside Sally Acorn. She is, as the staunchest critics say she is, a shallow opposite-sex counterpart to Bugs Bunny, who has little by way of character and a lot by way of... appeal. To put it lightly, nothing more, nothing less. As you can tell, I am not a fan of the idea that female is a character. I'm not a fan of having a female character simply for the sake of having a female character, and using that as an excuse to not write a fully defined, identifiable, interesting, and flawed character. And Lola, at least in this movie, is a textbook example of what I'm talking about. If her personality boils down to her acting flirtatiously towards other characters, and is defined solely by the responses from the other characters, then that's not much of a personality to begin with. It's a good thing that Lola's later incarnations are drastic improvements over this one. There we go. And before anyone goes Anita Sarkeesian on me, let me clarify that the feelings I just expressed are not exclusive to female characters alone. If a male character's personality is restricted to his broad shoulders, biceps and triceps, six-pack and package, then that's not a personality either. To make a long story short, sex and gender do not equal character. They never have and they never will. Got it? We clear on that? Okay, good. Now what about the technical merits of the movie? How do they hold up? I'll start with the cinematography. It's a goddamn mess. Guys, I respect the hell out of you, and I don't mean to come off as abrasive, but would you please back the fuck away from the camera?
Ouch! Not that close!
Yeah, I feel your pain, Nostalgia Critic. The extreme close-ups in this movie are too extreme for my liking, and make the experience uncomfortably tight. Characters chewing the scenery is one thing, but characters becoming the scenery is something else. And it's not just extreme close-ups that are abundant in this movie. Close-ups in general seem to make up 40% of the cinematography. I guess the crew was trying to hide the cracks in the actual animation. Which leads me to the next aspect. The animation has not aged well over the years. Well, I suppose the traditional animation for the Looney Tunes is pretty solid. The colors are slightly on the bright and saturated side, but for majority of it, it's crisp, fluid, and attractive. In that sense, it does the old cartoons justice. What really hasn't held up all this time is the more advanced forms of technology, such as the chroma keying and especially the CGI. They might have looked impressive back then, for God knows what reason, but now, they look like they were done by some jackass who recently graduated from a graphic design course from Uncanny Valley Community College and dicked around with After Effects for 5 minutes. With the quote-unquote special effect where MJ was turned into a human basketball specifically, it's very noticeable. An amateur in video editing can easily tell that the scene was a combination of different items on the editing timeline that doesn't present itself seamlessly. I get that it can be difficult to mask the artificiality of a scene such as this. You need to correct the colors, do some heavy anti-aliasing, and ensure that nothing sticks out like a sore thumb. And this type of technology hadn't come to fruition back then, but come on, Warner Brothers, this can't be your best foot forward. And to possibly contradict what I said about the traditional animation, the same flaw can be found in the scenes with of both the live-action cast and the animated cast. Tell me, does it really look like that MJ is being kissed by Bugs Bunny at all in this scene? Doesn't look like it to me. And the wonky perspective shots only exacerbate these faults. I was under the impression that MJ dwarfed the Looney Tunes 6:1, but with all these odd shots, I'm having second thoughts about that. Maybe I'm being too hard on this film. Maybe I am just spoiled by how far technology and animation have evolved. Maybe I'm so spoiled by today's standards in animation that I end up judging a mid-90s film by those standards, instead of the standards of its time. The reason I say this is because in spite of the criticisms I have towards this movie, I don't have that much umbrage with it. My criticisms are less a result of the concept itself and more a result of the execution. It's proven time and again that a concept, as outlandish as it may be, can be an absolute goldmine. One of my all-time favorites, Disney Pixar's Up, lives and breathes by this absurdity and deigns to challenge our predisposition to judge things at face value. And this may be my inner devil's advocate speaking again, but had Space Jam seen the same level of execution as Up, I think the circumstances would be a little different. In its favor, of course. As of now, Space Jam is one curious beast. In several ways, it's definitely a product of its time, but in other ways, there's some novelty to be had. Bringing animated characters to life, especially those as prestigious as the Looney Tunes, is a dream come true, and so is the idea of interacting with those characters. Even though the appeal has worn out its welcome today, back then it was a huge deal. But the combination of aged technical merits, a subpar performance from Michael Jordan, uncharacteristic moments from the Looney Tunes that dampen their trademark charm, keep the film from achieving that coveted level of greatness, and put it squarely within the mediocre range. On the plus side, the movie did inspire the youth of that time to try their hand at basketball, which is always an admirable thing. If you can convince kids to get off their asses and get more athletic through your show or film, especially today's kids, then more power to you. So kudos for that, Space Jam. This might be the end of the video, but Toon Sports Week is not quite done yet. Stay tuned for the rest of the week, as my colleagues Gem Review, Shadowstreak, and Cosmodor all show their sporty side with their videos. You won't want to miss them. Until the next video, I'm the one and only CR Martin, and the ball is officially in Gem Review's court. Ciao for now, it's all yours, Gem.